Hi, this is Joe Rabil from Rabil Stock Research. So what I'm going to do to start out the show, I want to do a lesson, but I'm going to talk about the QQQ in today's action because I want to show how we can look for a 1, 2, 3 reversal. It's starting to look like a potential reversal. It might not develop, but at least I can give you sort of frame it out and let you know what the key levels are. And it'll also teach you kind of how to be on the lookout for this type of a reversal pattern. I want to use the zigzag in ACP. I think it's a really powerful tool. I like the way it's designed, and I think it can really help you see the trend, in my opinion, in price structure especially. Once we're done with that, I will go through a few other indices. I want to keep watching the IWM and see what's taking place in the small cap universe. And then I'm going to go through some individual symbols and then also talk about a specific area that I think is showing some pretty interesting patterns. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Okay, so I like doing the lessons this way because it's kind of threefold. Number one, we can analyze what's taking place in the QQQ, give us a little bit of a framework of what to expect and what to look for in terms of key levels and price structure and the way things are reversing or not reversing, depending on how things play out over the next few days. Secondly, I like to show some of the power behind the ACP program, and especially when I find a tool that I really like, I want to make sure that people recognize it and add it to their system so they can take advantage. And then thirdly, I like to give these lessons on different forms of technical analysis. And so I want to talk about the 1, 2, 3 strategy and looking for this as a reversal signal. All right. If you know this can be incredibly helpful, whether you're trading off of a 2-minute chart or if you're looking at monthly and weekly patterns, really looking for longer term plays. All right, let's just look at this QQQ. So once again, just to bring everyone up to speed, this is the monthly chart in the bottom left. I've got a weekly chart in the bottom right, and then a daily chart in the upper right, and a hourly in the upper left. Now, one of the keys that I have said, especially when I go on my channel, I go into this in depth and with my subscribers as well, is that when we're looking for a trending play, we kind of want the trend already to be in place and then look for pullbacks on the smaller time frames, daily and hourly, to play in the direction of the already existing trend. All right, but if we're looking for a reversal signal and we're watching trends develop in a continuous fashion like we've seen in the QQQ where we've really just been trending to the upside, we want to look for the smaller time frames to help us look for reversal signals. Now, based on that, what we would expect is the hourly to reverse first to the downside. And if it showed a lot of strength and continuation, then we would see that reversal on the daily chart. And if we saw continuation to the downside from there, it would spill over to the weekly. And then finally, if it turned into a bear market, we would see it reverse on the monthly chart. So that's kind of the process when we're looking at a reversal pattern. So what I wanted to do is just recognize what's taking place on the daily chart. And when we look at this, we've had a pretty nice uptrend, and typically we're looking at the trend line that's in place. But because we made an interim higher low and a higher high, we can accelerate the trend line for the 1, 2, 3 pattern. All right, and so I'm going to use the last pivot low before the last high. I'm going to go back and look for that, and I'm going to draw on a trend line without passing through prices to create the trend line. And that is the one for the 1, 2, 3 change in trend. This is obviously covered in detail in my course. So we have the trend line break, and now we're starting to form the 2, which is the 2 is a test of this high. It can take place in the form of just a retracement back to the 18 or like a 38% retracement, something like that. Or we could come all the way back up to the high or even make a marginal new high and then reverse back down. Any of those can be considered the 2 in this process, but we're starting to take shape like we're getting a little bit of a rally back up to test this peak here. All right, now once that's in, and I would say as soon as we touch the 18, we basically have a test of this high. Once that happens, I'm going to draw a horizontal trend line here, and I'm going to draw a horizontal trend line up here. All right, and what we're doing here is we're framing out this reversal pattern. We know we're in a transitional phase the moment we break the trend line. All right, we break the trend line, and then we get a rally off this low, and now we're sitting in transition. Now, one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to work our way back up and break out again, and if that happens, then we're going to actually switch the trend line to this low, and we're going to start the process all over again, looking for a 1, 2, 3 reversal to start again. If in fact we make a move up to here and we come back down through this low, then we've completed the 1, 2, 3. Now, just so you know, the 1, 2, 3 is only presumptive evidence of a reversal. It is not confirming evidence. It's sort of a sign that we need to be, there's an increased likelihood that we have reversed. If you notice, that would be one lower high and one lower low. We would need to we need a series to reverse a trend. So we would need one more lower high and one more lower low. Now, if this would have come down and taken out this prior low here and made a lower low first, then made a lower high, makes a lower high, and then makes a lower low, then we would have a reversal right away. But in this case, we actually made a double bottom. This was a slightly higher low. So what we would look for is this 1, 2, 3 reversal. Now, I still think it would be really important. Notice what's taking place from a volume standpoint. We've got some pretty serious volume here, and I think that would increase the likelihood that we would get a correction back down to the next support zone, which way I'm looking at this is right around the 450 level in the QQQ. Now, if you notice, we don't have any real change in price structure when we look at the weekly chart. We had an ABC correction here. Look, in 2023, we had an ABC. All right, it wasn't a true trend change or anything like that based on the way the zigzag worked. It didn't give us any signs of a way to draw a trend line off of this low. Now we have a new trend line in place. We're going to draw here. So the 1, 2, 3 would start with a break of this trend line on the weekly chart. So we don't have, to me, I don't see anything serious in place. I don't see a climax pattern, and I don't see a reversal starting yet. What we'd be looking for is on the daily chart is a potential reversal developing if we form the 1, 2, 3. And if that happens again, I think it increases the likelihood that we use this, we come back to this 450 area and we see how that reacts. Now, if we break that, we break the trend line, then we'd be doing the exact same process that we did on the daily chart. We'd be doing that on this time frame. But the whole thing is that what I'm trying to get across here is that a top doesn't happen in a single day. It's a process that needs to take place. When we got to look for these key things, these key reversal to take place, start with the trend line break. A 2 would be a test of the high in some way, shape, or form. We'd be testing this 500 area, and then we'd need to come back down through the low of the pullback. All right. So I just thought it was worthwhile going through this. This is a pretty important level to watch, because if we end up forming, we could end up forming a trading range. We want to see which way it breaks off of that. Does it break to the downside, or does it break back to the upside? I'm leaning towards, just based on how extended a lot of the stocks are, I'm leaning towards this wanting to correct a little bit more and work its way down, but not to turn into some type of really violent breakdown or something like that where we get a big reversal. So wouldn't be surprised to see a reversal take place on the QQQ, but I would be surprised if we got one to take place on the weekly. All right, so we can look for it on the daily, but I don't know that I'd be on the lookout for some kind of a monster move to the downside. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button and also subscribe. So my services can be found at rabilstockresearch.com. I'm on the services page right now. You can see at the top I've got the advanced trend and momentum courses individually priced for lifetime access, plus you could buy them as a bundle at a discount. And then also the individual package has about 2 to 3 reports each week, plus a special video commentary each week for that package. Also, if you're new to this approach and you want to just learn more about it, you can start with the book I'm offering at a discount right now. Okay, so I'm looking at an updated chart of the QQQ as of 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. So what I wanted to do is follow up on what we were talking about, because sometimes it's not crystal clear, and I wanted to make sure you understand how how to kind of look at this and say, okay, because of the way this turned down, we have a gap down based on earnings from Tesla and Google today. And so instead of making a move all the way up to the 18, we've got a small retracement, and now we're all of a sudden going back down. So we have this kind of continuous line. We don't have the structure we're looking for. So a lot of times we'll see this take place. And one of the things I'll tell you is that if you took a retracement level from this peak down to here, this did reach the 38% retracement, which is kind of like my minimum criteria. But let's face it, I mean, this is not the quality of the structure we're looking for. We were looking for a little bit more of a move up here before it reversed down. Now, when I look at it this way, I realize that it's a little bit unorthodox in the way that it's playing out, but we have a downtrend in place on the hourly. All right, look at the volume pattern on the hourly, by the way. You see this, you see all the, this is the average volume. You see all the red bars that have shown up on this chart. So it's pretty crystal clear. And when you go and you look at the daily chart, we've definitely seen some selling. So we've taken out the low on this time frame. I don't really consider this a 1, 2, 3 just based on the way it's played out. Now, if you looked at that as a retracement and you played this as a break, I don't have a problem with that, but I think I'd be looking at this kind of like an hourly. Now, what can happen in this situation is we could move all the way down to the 18. We could come all the way down to price support, maybe start to find support at the 18-week. Without having this reverse. And then what I would be on the lookout for if it played out that way is, so we have this line coming down, and then I would be looking for, so actually it would come down, let's say it came down to 450, I would be looking for a good bounce and a kind of a failure pattern to develop that way. So we want to be on the lookout for that. We still have a pretty critical zone to watch at the 475 area. So we could play this game where we bounce around between 450 and 475. But what I'm telling you is sometimes if the 1, 2, 3 doesn't act perfectly, we don't get the zigzag to actually work its way back up to the 18. It has met the minimum criteria because it hit the 38% retracement. But it's not like a clean reversal in my view. But again, sometimes we see that and we can see this drop down without having the reversal and test support on the next higher time frame. Because we've broken the 18 and the 18 has rolled over, the odds are pretty high that we're going to come down to the 18 week. All right, let's move on. And before I move into the other, I want to talk about the IWM for sure, but let's go through the a few of the cryptos. All right, I want to stay on top of these on a regular basis and make sure I cover them at least once, maybe twice a month. So if you remember, the last time we spoke about this, we had this kind of a move to the upside, but MACD was not confirming. And so we kind of expected a move to the downside. We have now gotten a pretty strong rally to the upside that's gotten the daily chart starting to look a little bit better. I think this pullback is something we could look for because of the strength and the fact that we've gotten through the 18-week, the fact that the ADX is still really strong on this time frame. I think we could take a hard look at this. Now, one of the things I'm watching, though, is during this pullback, if we were to pull back and red were to cross back above green, then I probably would make this I'd be looking for a little bit more confirmation because this was a pretty strong selling period to the downside. So I'm looking for green to take over, and I don't know that it's convincing yet. So we could form a little pinch play and move to the upside right now. If that happens, I do think that's a playable event. All right, look at ETH. We have the same sort of pattern developing. It's not quite as strong as the Bitcoin pattern, but I think it's very similar. We've got a double bottom here. We've got MACD working its way back down to the zero line. We don't have a lot of selling strength. We do have selling strength on the daily, but we've made a pretty strong reversal. I think if we can hold the 18, another one that looks somewhat interesting. Now, actually, when I went through all of these, the one that caught my eye the most was this TRON. Look at this. Look at the strength of this rally to the upside, and now we're consolidating and we're pulling back to the 18 on the daily chart. We don't have the same kind of selling strength now because we've made a pretty strong move to the upside. This one was the one that actually intrigued me the most when I went through. The rest are way too weak when I went through the rest of the cryptos. They just don't look that appealing to me. All right, let's get going on the IWM, because this is what we were looking for. We've been talking about ad nauseum. I've been talking about this index and watching and waiting, and look at what's taking place. Now we're having a huge down day in the QQQ, a huge down day in the S&P, and this is actually down for the day, but it's holding up much better. And we've got this breakout pattern. Look at what the relative strength line is doing. We want to see this going up when the market's going down. It's a really good sign. Now, we're overbought in this index, so we should be expecting some kind of a pause or a pullback before too long. But I have to say, this is a very encouraging sign. Low ADX breakout where the relative strength is starting to kick in. I'm very encouraged by this. I think this is going to improve the underlying broadening. We should see a broadening effect of more other stocks starting to participate. All right, now I do want to answer a question I got on entry on this ATI. All right, so the question was, so first let's just set the stage. We had somewhat of a harsh decline on the weekly chart that caused this to roll over. And we had some pretty big red bars here. So I know I'm not really looking to immediately get long on the first signal on the daily chart. So we need a little bit more of a complex pattern to develop on the daily. So in other words, I'm not just looking to play this and then it closes back above the 40, I'm getting in, or if we're breaking a downtrend line or something like that. I need something more. But if you notice, we got a pretty good green bar, but then look at how this reversed. We had basically big green, big red, and then we formed a pinch play. So the question becomes, do you play the pinch play when you're running into resistance? And I would say that I don't have a problem with the resistance as much as I do the big green followed by the big red. So I'm not a huge fan of this. So I probably would have passed on this. Now, you would have gone and hit some targets and made some money in this, but I probably would have passed not only because it was a red zone where we've had some problems, but because of this big green red bar. Now, I'm happy to miss trades like that. I don't have a problem with that. Overall, the pattern is good. And if we take it in the context of the overall structure and everything, yeah, it's pretty attractive, improving green, nice looking pinch play back above the first pullback after we crossed above the zero line. And we had a pretty tight couple bars here. I just didn't like the way it came in. So again, that's how I would look at that one. All right, let's start going through a few other requests before we get into some big names. And a few of the big names are actually included in here. Now, I highlighted on my report this week, this was what I call a buying climax. All right, a buying climax is when you hit a new 52-week high. So this went to a new high for the week, and then it closed down for the week. It doesn't have to be an outside reversal bar, but if it closes down for the week and there's an increase in volume, I consider this to be a pretty important buying climax. Now, I can look back, and we can go back to, let's just keep going. We can go all the way back to the start of this move in 2020. This is the biggest red bar that we've had. Really haven't had any serious selling with a big red bar in this whole move. So I think this is very important. It would have been beautiful if it happened right at the 1,000 mark, but I have to respect what's going on here. I think this is a pretty big reversal and probably starts I would say what I would consider to be a meaningful correction. Google had earnings, and I wanted to explain something that's happening. We have this gap down. Now, if you look at it on the weekly, it looks like it's pulling back to a rising 18 above a rising 40. We've got good momentum here, but look at what's taken place on the MACD. The MACD is crossing down. Now, we haven't finished the week, but if we finish the week like this and we've crossed down, then we know we don't want to play this quickly. We've got to give this time, and it's probably going to consolidate a little bit, and it's possible we'll see more weakness that causes us to break the 18-week. Because this is extended on the monthly, I would shy away from being a buyer right now based on the way it's reversing, based on the gap, and based on the overrun. All right. Now, Amazon was another negative highlight. So when I highlighted Lilly this week, it was a negative highlight. Amazon was another negative highlight. I do like to highlight negatives as well on my Monday report. And if you notice, the reason why I did not like what's going on this weekly chart, we hit a new high in price, but MACD did not confirm. And not only that, it didn't even get above its signal line. But look at what the ADX did for the first time. After strong legs, it did not confirm with an ADX move back above 25. And then we got a big red bar to the downside. I think this is a start, again, of a more meaningful correction phase. Maybe work its way down what happens is price doesn't work all the way down to the 18. The 18 keeps climbing, and then these meet up somewhere in the middle. That's what I would be expecting in something like Amazon. Now, let's talk about Tesla, because this is one I was looking for as a potential entry, and it never really, well, let me explain this on the daily since I talked about this. We were looking for an RSI signal. I would not take an RSI signal here as this was turning up 2 days before earnings. I would never do that. I tell my subscribers if we're within 7 trading days, I'm going to pass on that and I'm going to let it play out with the earnings and then look for an entry. It looks like we have the potential for an RSI buy on the weekly, but look at the way this is gapping down. The violence of this move to the downside tells me we have a little bit of time. We don't have to be in a big hurry. And look at what's going on the monthly chart. We're back down, testing the 18-month back below the 40. Not the type of pullback that I wanted to see. And this is why I wait to see how we react on a pullback. We don't just buy the strength. We want to look for a pullback. All right, finally, let's take a quick look at the REITs. There are some REITs that are showing some pretty nice price action, and I wanted to make sure I highlight each week now. I'm going to try and pick out one area that kind of catches my eye. Look at how tight this pattern is on the BRX. Notice how this is a really beautiful low ADX breakout play getting going. Look at ESRT. ESRT has already broken out. It's made a pretty good move and then it pulled back. And what I wanted to point out, something I like to look for, is you notice how we broke below the MACD zero line, and then we failed at it, and then got above, and now we're getting our first zero line reversal, right, above the line. So in other words, we're getting a test of the zero line for the first time in years. I really like that because what that tells me is there was enough strength in the up move that a pullback didn't cause a break of the zero line. So now we want to watch. We've got earnings coming at the close today. Another really nice tool here. As you can see, it says AMC after the market close. So we know the date and when before or after. Watch for a pullback and see how that looks. And then finally, SPG. I think this looks pretty attractive. And look at the momentum condition in place on the weekly chart with reverse divergence on the weekly as well. Nice looking monthly cupping around. Thanks for watching today. If you have any specific stock requests you'd like me to analyze on next week's show, just send them to stocktalk@stockcharts.com, or you can just put them in the comment area below. Also, if you want to learn more about some of these trading techniques, I would suggest going to my YouTube channel called Invest Like a Pro. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.